and welcome to my Authortube channel. My name is Stephanie and I am writing a book for the very first time with no prior writing experience. And today I wanted to take a minute to reintroduce myself. It is 2025, it's a new year. I also recently just got 1,000 subscribers. Hello to all of you. And I thought it would be a good opportunity to take the new year and explain to you who I am, why I'm writing a book, and what is going on with my book. It'll be a nice little recap for all of you so you can get caught up on what's going on my channel. So let me talk about my background a little bit, specifically when it comes to writing and my previous writing experience, which is practically nothing. I did not go to school for writing or reading or literature or English. I got an engineering degree. I got a STEM degree. I went into a STEM career. So my career is now in corporate America. And I've never done anything related to writing in my job, and I've never taken any writing classes in college. The extent of writing I did was writing papers for my classes, just regular papers. I will say I always enjoyed working on the papers, and it was never really an issue to me. Like, I could always meet the page limit. But beyond that, I never really considered writing at all. I also want to mention my reading habits because reading and writing do go hand in hand. I was a crazy reader when I was little. I read so many books, I loved fiction and mystery and thrillers and things like that. But I think, like a lot of us, when I got into high school and especially college, there was a lot of forced reading. It was reading things I didn't want to read, and it was all informational. Like, there wasn't any reading for pleasure, and I didn't have time to read for pleasure. By the time I graduated college, I seriously wanted nothing to do with reading anymore. I hated it. College made me hate it, and it's really a shame when I look back that I didn't try to pick it up, but it got such a negative connotation with me due to my college experience that I just never really did it. And it's been many, many, many years that I haven't read a book for fun or that I have written anything. So it's been a very long time. I will say I've read a few like personal development or informational books over the years just because I needed a certain type of information, or again, it was required reading for work or whatever. But other than that, I have not really read for pleasure or written anything or tried to write anything. So now you're probably wondering, if I haven't read or written anything in such a long period of time, how in the world did I decide to write a book? Well, 2 years ago, almost exactly 2 years ago, I got on TikTok and I started seeing a bunch of posts about a particular book series. It was the Authortube series. And there was such a fandom around it and everyone talking about how much they love these books. And I said, it seems kind of interesting. Like, everyone's really liking this. Maybe I want to give it a try. And I was talking to a friend about it, and she said, you've got to read it. But then she said, I've got the books. Do you want to read them? I can give them to you. And so I said, sure. So she gave me all her books. She loaned them. Don't worry, I didn't steal them. She gave me her books, and I read through the entire series. I absolutely loved it. And it really made me fall in love with reading again. I really enjoyed creating this world inside my head and watching a character develop and identifying with the various character developments throughout the book. And I just really loved reading. And after that, I just kept reading and reading and reading all the time. So I started reading 2 years ago, and I really do love like fiction books, romance books, fantasy books. And then about 6 months after that, so about a year and a half ago, I started just having these thoughts of, it would be interesting if there was a book written about XYZ, certain random topic. Or what would happen if there was a book about the situation happening? And I started to play out these little scenarios in my head. And after a while, I was like, what if I wrote these? Because the scenes and the scenarios were starting to get really well thought out in my head. And I was like, I wonder if I could write these. And I sat down and I thought about it, and I was like, I think I could write a book. I have enjoyed writing, even though it was many years ago, I enjoyed writing. And I have all these stories, and I think I might enjoy it. I wasn't sure, but I thought I might. I kind of kept that in the back of my head, and I started developing a particular story, like a book. And I said, let me just develop this in my head, see how it goes, and maybe in a few months' time, I'll check in If it's something I really want to do, I'll keep thinking about it and it will stay on my mind. And if it's not, it'll pass and I won't really miss anything. So the months went by and I kept thinking about it. I was starting to think about this book almost every night, and I really enjoyed my time working on it. And as I got to thinking about it, I kind of realized I really want to write this book. And we're going to call this idea number 1. The reason we are identifying this as idea number 1 will be clear later. So I had idea number 1, and unfortunately, at the time I kind of decided I wanted to write a book, there was a lot going on in my life. I had a job change. I was in the process of getting my Italian citizenship and moving to Italy for a while. And I was like, it is just not the right time to start writing this book. I have too much going on. My life was very chaotic and it just wasn't the right time. So fast forward to early last year, which was like early 2024. I was in Italy. I was getting really inspired. I was considering a lot of life changes. And I said, when I get back from Italy, my life will have calmed down a little bit and I'll be more able to spend time on a book. And I said, I'm going to do it when I get back. So sure enough, I got back, and I think it was April or May, I started to work on my book. And it is the book I'm currently working on now, which is actually idea number 2. I came up with a second idea to write first instead of idea number 1. I want to talk about it because I don't want it to be like, I want people to realize you can have a book idea and sit on it. It's not like you come up with a book idea and you have to write it, and you come up with a book idea and you have to write it. Like, I think it's important in your creative process to realize what might be the best path for you. And for me, this was the right path. I decided early on I did not want to write idea number 1 first, because idea number 1 is very complex. There's a lot of characters. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of world building. And the more I thought about it, I was just like, it is so much work that I would prefer to write something else first, kind of get my feet wet a little bit, and then write this later when I've had more experience and I can maximize my time efficiently. That's when would be the best time for me to write idea number 1. So then I started brainstorming. I was like, well, if I'm not writing idea number 1 first, I got to come up with a new idea. So I did come up with idea number 2, which is what I'm writing right now. And I really love idea number 2. I don't think I'm sacrificing a story or just writing this because I genuinely love both plots very much. So then I had idea number 2 and it was time to start the book. So here's kind of the progress I've made on my book so far. I started working on this book about 6 months ago. I think, like I said, I think it was April or May. I can't quite remember. I did a lot of brainstorming and plotting for this. I spent about 6 months brainstorming and plotting and coming up with ideas for this book. It took a very long time, longer than I wanted, just because I have a full-time job, life things, but I did make an effort to try and work on it every week, and I did in some form. And I'm happy to say I closed out the end of 2024 with an outline. It was very exciting. And I also started writing my book recently. I'm up to 11,000 words. So obviously it's in the very, very beginning. I have a lot more progress to make on my book, but that's kind of where I am right now. And where I'm going is I'm going to keep writing this book. I have a whole video previously about my 2025 goals, but in summary, I'm going to be writing this first draft and spending probably most of next year dedicated to this one book. I do have that one book idea, and I've also come up with other book ideas in the meantime, and I will probably be working on those at some point in the future. I'm just not sure when. We're just going to see how this writer journey goes. I wanted to document my writing journey on YouTube because as someone who has absolutely no background in writing or anything like that, I felt like I could add a particular viewpoint to the writing process for anyone who might be interested in writing their first book as well. Also, I'm doing this so I can see my progress that I make. It keeps me really motivated to make videos. Hopefully, if you are a new author, an aspiring author, or someone who's just thinking about writing a book, my content will help give you some insight into what the process is like. So far, it's been a very interesting process. It has been quite unexpected, and it has been interesting, and I'm having a great time doing it. And if you are interested in seeing more Authortube content from me, please subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.